Rick Del Santo. You're listening to Pro Wrestling Wire Radio, part of ProWrestlingWire.net, Helix Rock Radio, and of course the AIWF Network. You can catch us each and every Wednesday night, 9 to 11 on Helix Rock Radio. I'm sitting down here tonight with Mustang Mike. What's going on, Mike?
What's up, brother? I appreciate you having me on the show.
Yeah, and as we were saying off air, it's finally glad to do this. As we said, we tried to do this a couple times, and yeah, we're finally making it happen. So.
Oh yeah, well, better late than never.
Yeah, there you go. So let's start from the beginning, I guess you can say. How did you ever get interested in the world of professional wrestling, and then make your where'd you find out to train and stuff?
Well, I mean, most guys these days, well, I say most, a lot, try to talk about that, about the fans and how, this and that, whatever, and it's a separate part of the business and all. And yes, which it is, but if I can only speak for myself, but I grew up as a wrestling fan,
Right.
watching the wrestling, having my favorites. I'm down here in South Louisiana, so it was Mid-South, Junkyard Dog and the Freebirds and, Rock and Roll Express and all that crew, basically Bill Watts promotion. So watch that. And then, of course, wrestling didn't have the where you could see too much of, but was lucky enough to catch some Georgia Championship wrestling and some world-class wrestling and stuff like that. So just grew up watching it, always admiring the sport. And it really kind of fell in my lap one day. I had no idea that there was independent wrestling, and a buddy of mine happened to be working with a guy from Houma, who was a professional wrestler on the independent circuit, Bronco Bob. And he basically said, man, I'm working with a guy, he's a wrestler. And I'm like, yeah, sure you are, and, this and that, whatever. And so I went and met the guy, and sure enough, 6'5", 370 pounds. And, and I'm like, man, I said, it's not. So he invited me to come to a show in Houma. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like WWF's coming to town? And he's like, no. Independent wrestling. I had no idea what that meant. So I showed up at a show and went and watched it and said, man, this is technically the real deal, And,
right.
And then he offered me an opportunity to start training. And then, I was 24 at the time and kind of technically a late starter, in world of wrestling on average. And, basically started training right out the gate, and and that's how my foot got in the door.
Yeah, when you were exposed to professional wrestling through that incident, is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's how I was exposed to becoming in the business, by meeting a guy who basically had been in the business 3 or 4 years. He had a following. He was from Houma, which Mid-South Wrestling had already done sold out. To the UWF when went to, all the outlets.
Crockett. Yeah.
Right. But then Mid-South, a guy named Frank Jeffries down in Houma actually rebranded and started Mid-South Entertainment. And so basically he did a lot of the Southern stuff, brought in some of the past names, the Michael Hayes and, Terry Gordy and Junkyard Dog and all those guys. So I got to meet a lot of my childhood heroes that I was actually intermingling with while I was kind of in the middle of my training.
Right. I know that when I discovered independent wrestling, it was like a whole new world to me. And it was just like, I'd have to say it's like late 80s, early 90s. I discovered the Savoldi TV. And then I didn't go to my first independent show until about 1994. I was literally blown away by, I got to see Little Guido about 5 years before he was on national TV, Bill Eadie, Demolition Axe, as he was coming off WWF TV. Greg Valentine, the same. There was Jimmy Snuka, Metal Maniac, and it was just kind of an amazing thing to see that there's a difference between. And to me, like you said, it was the real deal. It was the nitty gritty. It seemed more realistic to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, like I said, even now, people don't realize, I mean, there's so many people that I run into on a daily basis, and they, might meet me for the first time, and people say, "Hey, Mike, he's a wrestler." Well, what's your name? Mustang Mike. How come I've never heard of you? They
Right.
see the
Yeah.
WWE, and I'm like, well, I mean, I don't wrestle for WWE. Well, then how are you a wrestler? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, without going into the long drawn out story. And then as time's going on, I've got people to, hey, why don't you come see a show? And then they come, and then they like, wow, this is better, because
Yeah.
it's, we're up close and personal, and my kids get to meet the wrestlers. It's a fraction of the price, you know. We're sitting on the front row for $25 instead of 500, and I'm like, and to the kids, to a dad bringing his kid, that's all he wants is to have a good time and feel like he's enjoyed himself and not break the bank.
Right. Yeah.
So
Abs- Absolutely. But because WWE ticket prices are out the through the roof right now. I was looking at tickets to
I can only
even like Saturday night's main event. It's only like an hour from where I live, and it's just like the tickets were like outlandish. I was like, there's no way I could take my kid to go see that.
hmm
Yeah. So I mean, I take my kid to an independent show. It's anywhere from $10 to $20. It'll cost each. So it's and it provides good family entertainment.
Yeah, I mean that's what I get to, and like I said, a lot of people just really don't, you know, realize what they could be getting, for the same value. I mean, sure, we don't have the budget of all the super lights and the pyro and the big, 10,000 seat arenas and stuff like that, but um, I said I've been blessed, to start with Mid South and get my foot in the door with the a lot of the original crew, down my way in the South. And I know you up in a different area, so your local guys of that area is a totally different than me. But
Right.
yeah, I got to have some tutelage from the Junkyard Dog, Terry Gordy, Gentleman Chris Adams, um, Terry Taylor. I met a lot of those guys, from down this way, One Man Gang. So all those guys were kind of Southern, based guys, and
Right.
and you know, I was still at 24 years old. I had just had a son. I was a single dad, and I didn't. I was big into sports. A lot of and I didn't really give wrestling 100% right out the gate. I loved it, but I didn't go in it to want to wrestle every weekend and travel all over the country and do all that. And so I really did the local thing, just Louisiana small shows for the longest time. And, as years passed and started kind of, slowing down on more of the sports and getting more into wrestling as 4 or 5 years passed. Then I started kind of picking up a little steam and traveling a little more and doing a little bit. But like I said, it's I don't regret not doing it, but I think if I would have pushed it a little further out of the gate, that a lot of people have told me, man, you belong in WWE and you should have been in WCW and all that. And I'm like, well, I appreciate you saying that, but it wasn't as much my goal to do that at an early stage as some of these guys is coming out at 22 and that's their only goal. So,
Right.
and I don't take nothing from them. That's what they want. But at the time I enjoyed, and hanging out with my friends and playing sports and wrestling was kind of like another thing that I did.
Right. Right. So you grew up, or you were from southern Louisiana, right? So you got one of the differences. It's like I grew up in Connecticut, and I always appreciated the southern style wrestling as opposed to the northeast wrestling type
hmm
of scene. You know what I mean?
Oh
Because
yeah.
like as I said before about it, like independent wrestling, it's like it was more nitty gritty, and the difference between watching like say the WWF TV, watching like the NWA TV, the arenas were darker, people had more realistic sounding names, and it just seemed more realistic to me as opposed to the cartoons that were on WWF television, and that's what I
hmm
appreciated about things like the NWA, Mid
hmm
South, World Class. World Class, I used to watch every single day of the week. It was on ESPN when I was growing up in the late '80s. the Legends of World Class TV program. So I used to get to catch
Hmm.
that every day after school. That's the first thing I would do is watch World Class every day after school.
Hmm.
The AWA, stuff like that. I always appreciated that kind of wrestling that was more realistic and treated like an actual sport.
Yeah, I mean they really did. I mean there's an old story because we're a commissioned state. Some of the people who
Nope,
realize
still,
what
yeah.
a commission is, and the reason we are is because Bill Watts wanted it to be that way back when he was doing things. He wanted the fans to be able to come to the shows and have a realistic base on wrestling. That it was 100% legit, and so that's how everything started with the Louisiana Commission being involved and running it like it was a real full sport, and we still deal with the commission down here these days, but things are way better than they used to be. But like I said, that they people take their wrestling to heart down here in Louisiana. I mean, it's the South is. I'm sure I've been up to Jersey and wrestled up there, and my buddy Andrew Anderson, and it's a different fan base down here than
Yeah,
than it is there.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, I'll be working in the Carolinas actually later in the or earlier in 2025. So I'm kind of looking forward
Okay.
to like breaking into that area finally because I'm a huge like Crockett fan and fan of
Mm-hmm.
the wrestling from the Carolinas and stuff. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about some of. I came across some of your matches on YouTube. I got a chance to
Okay.
watch some of them.
Okay.
Uh, you did team with Greg Valentine and Andrew Anderson at one point. So,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
Greg Valentine, an absolute legend. As is, I can't say that take nothing away from Andrew Anderson. He is, he was the current version of the Purple Haze as well.
Correct. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I met Andrew at WrestleMania when it came down here to Louisiana. I think that was around, if I'm not mistaken, 16 or 17. I think it was 16 when
Okay.
WrestleMania came, and we met by chance. They had a one of the promoters at the time. Matt Riviera, which is out of Arkansas area. Uh, he did a Mid South Fan Fest the WrestleMania weekend and had some wrestling matches and brought in all the Mid South guys and which Greg Valentine was more of a northern based guy a little bit, but he came in and him and Andrew was tight and we met and ended up going to WrestleMania that weekend and ended up in the same suite with them. And that's how me and Andrew met. And I met Greg, for the first time. And then we became close friends and co-promoted and did a lot of things. But yeah, that was one of the deals where Greg came in and I mean, he was way past his prime, but
Hmm.
he still got in the ring and did a 6-man tag with us and did his part. And so it was, you know, just an honor to be able to be in the ring and be on a team with a guy who's done so much as somebody like him.
Right. Right. What year did you start professional wrestling or training at least? I know that you're only a few years older than me, not by
Yeah,
much, but
yeah,
I'm trying to remember because I remember seeing it, but I don't remember exactly what year it was.
yeah. I started training in June of 1994, and my
Okay.
first match was in November of 1994. And
That quick? Wow.
it,
Okay.
yeah, well, it was to tell you a quick story on how that happened in professional wrestling is, I wasn't training full time because I was involved in a lot of sports and things, stuff like that. So I was training
Right.
maybe a couple times a month. It wasn't like I went to a school and was there every night for 6 months or something like that. But I was doing my job, working the shows and security and ring crew, and started at the bottom and did some training that day before show. And coincidentally, one of the guys couldn't make it. And then, of course, the promoter's in a panic. And what are we going to do? We need this guy to fill a spot. And turn around, they look around and like, what about Mike? And I'm like, yeah, what about Mike? And like, wait, not this Mike. And like, yeah, you. I'm like, you mean wrestle live? And like, yeah, we think you're capable of doing it. I'm like, well, you got a lot of faith in me. I didn't have any, I had knee pads and shorts, but I didn't have any ring attire gear and stuff like that. And then, sure enough, borrowed a few things, and of course, they moved the card around a little bit, and
Right.
called my buddy up at home. Hey, get the camcorder. You better get over here. It was about 45 minutes away from my home, and sure enough, had my first match impromptu, and come up with the name. And Bronco Bob, rest he's gone now, was my mentor, and it kind of got me involved. So, what's your name? Um, you know, how about I want to be Mike? So Bronco Bob, Mustang Mike, and that's how my name became Mustang Mike right out the gate, and I've never changed it. Now I've had some
Wow.
alternate monikers, that I've used. Depends on what I was doing at the time, working as the face or the heel or whatever, or some sort like that. And I might change the name as the kind of my few days as a bad guy to maybe Magnificent Mike or something like that.
Right.
But in general, Mustang Mike is my base name, and I'm still using it. And I just, like I said, just made 30 years, my 30-year anniversary last month.
Well, congratulations. That's awesome. That's really cool. So you worked for several different NWA territories during the prior to the Lightning One era. What do you have to say about working for the NWA? You've worked with some legends through there, and I'm going to ask you about the transition into the Lightning One era. I guess we could do a two-parter there.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's how it kind of worked out. NWA was, matter of fact, Matt Riviera was out of Arkansas area. He had a promotion. You had Greg Anthony up there in Tennessee, and you had a lot of affiliates back then
Right.
in the 2015, 16 area. Everything was building up, and was fortunate enough to meet some really great guys: Tim Storm, James Beard, Rob Conway, Jack Stain. All those guys were super big in the NWA at the time, and just started. Andrew Anderson had a lot of connections with guys, being involved in the business and all, and doing stuff like that, and started getting booked on a few shows and doing things, and then my name value got built up a little bit, and they had a big event in that NWA saw what I was doing because I was helping run a promotion called Gulf Coast Wrestling down here in Louisiana, and of course in my hometown, of course I'm going to be the big draw, and
Right.
they saw that I was putting 400 to 500 people in buildings and stuff like that, and they kind of NWA is like, okay, well that's the kind of group we want to be involved in, and
Right.
we came in and helped work with Matt Riviera on a show, and we did the first event, which was called Cajun Heat. Brought in Rodney Mack, Rob Conway, Jack Stain, um, a bunch of the tag teams from up in like Tennessee, Simon, can't think of the name, the Heat Seekers. No, is it Heat Seekers? Yeah, I believe so.
I
Up
think
in
so. Yeah.
Tennessee area. And but like I said, that's how it worked out. And being that I was the hometown guy, Jax Dane was the world heavyweight champion at the time, and they gave me that match. And so crazy story about how that happened is he ended up getting vertigo the weekend before and couldn't wrestle me. Yeah. So Greg Anthony was the national champion at the time, and he went ahead and said, you know what, guy deserves, he's did the work and put this together. And Greg Anthony stepped up and put the national title up, and I won the belt in front of about
Oh,
1,100
well.
people in my hometown. And I was in 2017. And so anyway, that was my first real big opportunity with the NWA. And, eventually lost the belt back to Greg, and then worked my way back through the ranks and ended up facing Tyson Dean, which was the North American heavyweight champion. I won that in April of 2018. And just when I thought everything was going my way, everything's going great, hey, can I win that trifecta? Can I face, go at the time, I think Tim Storm had the belt, and can I get the World Heavyweight Championship? And the NWA went through the phase where they sold out. and not not sold out, but sold it, and you know, Billy took over, and during that transition, I was tried to be as hell. I was the champion. I was the NWA North American champion, and they got rid of all the affiliates, and basically dropped everybody, and then basically
Yeah.
said all the champions had to surrender their belts except for the world
Yeah.
heavyweight champion. So I
Yeah.
never technically lost the NWA North American Championship. So, you know, obviously that's hard, you know, to you know that new transition I didn't fit in. But, you know, it's a business like anything else, and they made their decisions. I don't know if it was directly Billy's decision. They, you know, you have all you guys that go down the ladder that make calls on things and stuff, but the direction they had, it didn't include me. And so, uh, I wish things would have worked a little different and wanted to still be involved with them and stuff like that. And ever since they've kind of transitioned and started working their way up different directions, um, it's not been in the cards for me to be involved with them. So,
Yeah.
but that's
Yeah.
my
I
story with
noticed.
NWA.
Well, I noticed that they got rid of every territory. I mean, I spoke at length with Greg Anthony about this on an episode that we did about a year ago, and now they're starting to add the territories back. It seems like they have about 6 or 7 added back, and they added two out of Texas now. So I
Yeah,
guess
I
they're really
wasn't sure if
trying
it
to
was.
expand into Texas.
Yeah, I know
Sorry.
they had one. I'm not sure if it was two, but you could be right. Um, that's an area down there where Rodney Mack is down San Antonio area. I
Yep.
know they're doing something, maybe Dog Pound Wrestling or something like
Yes.
that.
Yeah, and then
But
Friday they announced Texas style wrestling, and I think James Beard is directly involved in that one.
okay, okay,
Yeah.
yeah. James has been around forever. He's originated way back in the day with World Class. He knows so many people. He's a quality guy, great guy,
Yeah.
always about the business. And I think when all that happened, everybody other than the world champion Tim Storm kind of got, maybe put on the side, and then now things are kind of working kind of way back, into trying to expand. And I think it's smart business for them to get affiliates and spread the
Yeah.
name. And I can understand when they wanted to change, because at the time I think they might have had like 50 or 60 affiliates. And of
Yeah, they were
course,
all over the place. Yeah.
yeah, but in wrestling, you have some things that are more quality and bigger than others, and some are smaller, and maybe some of them was just didn't really need to be an affiliate, wasn't doing the things they needed to do to promote it and get the crowds. And you don't want to start a new business and you look like, okay, well, hold on, you got a federation over here drawing 70 people. We don't, and I can understand that, but my federation, which was Gulf Coast Wrestling, I ended up joining the NWA and turned it to NWA Gulf Coast, and was only involved with it for about 6 months when the change happened. So then
Okay.
when that happened, of course, I had to give up NWA Gulf Coast, and I rebranded into Gulf State Wrestling. And that's
Okay.
my home promotion down here in Louisiana, Gulf State Wrestling. But like I said, if they did come to me now and say, hey, look, you put in some big houses and we want to maybe revisit that again, it's not that I wouldn't look at it from a business standpoint and see if it would make sense. But, it's all about decisions at the time and what's going on. And I know we'll be talking about the AIWF and things and stuff like that. And, did some things with them already, and great quality group of guys. And I'm looking forward to doing some big things with them, especially some things coming up.
Jimmy Valiant, Boogie Woogie Man.
Legendary Boogie Woogie Man.
Wait a minute, baby. Wait a minute. Hang on.
What are you doing around
What was that
here?
calling you, buddy?
This
Was
is our
that Jamie?
neighborhood.
You
This
done
is a
made
young
a
man's
mistake.
game.
You should be retired, Boogie.
Wait a minute, boys. Let me take a bite of my king dog.
You say King Dog?
King Dog?
Is that what you said? What? What? What happened?
Come on, boy.
Don't let hunger bully you. Get yourself a king dog, and you too can become a super hunger fighter.
What do you got in store with the AIWF? Are you going to
Well, I
be
don't.
part of the anniversary event in March?
Well, so kind of fall the way we're talking about that now. Um, Greg Anthony came in and defended the world championship against me at my big show this past July that we have. We had about
Right.
900 people in Morgan City, Louisiana, with no top names on the card. You know, I mean,
That's
no
amazing.
TV,
Yeah.
no personality names and stuff like that. So that was huge. He came in and wrestled me, and of course, you always have your basic storylines that are going on down here, and I'm the good guy, hometown guy, and we had the bad guy. Put his name out there, Vladimir Kolov. He's our heavyweight champion, a Russian character, and ended up interfering in the match. The match got called out as a draw. So people have been talking about it and asking, hey, does Mustang Mike deserve a rematch? Can we make another stipulation, this and that, whatever? And, I've been putting in my time doing things. Barrett Brown, the junior heavyweight champion, worked on the show. Basically, I'm kind of aligning myself a lot more with the AIWF. And just recently, this weekend, if anybody's out there and looking at my page, Mustang Mike, we had a show in New Orleans with a different federation, and Mark Henry was there, and he was dressed as Santa Claus. And I took a picture with him and said, "Hey, I'm the world's strongest Santa Claus. I made my wish for something big to happen in 2025." And I guess people started talking and getting on AIWF website and doing things, since then. And the announcement was actually made just yesterday afternoon that I have a big event down here, February 15th, and they've awarded me a world championship match against, if it's Greg Anthony at the time, that's who it's going to be. But that's I've been awarded the shot just as of yesterday. So it's hot news. Not many people know about it yet, but since we're talking about it, it's out there. So I'm looking forward to, if I can make that happen. I'd love to be a big representative and for the AIWF. I wrestle at about
Yeah.
6 Southern federations down here in Louisiana, Mississippi area. So and looking forward to some things. And I know their big show is in North Carolina. He was talking about. I believe it's the first weekend in March.
Right, it's a 2-day event. I think it's the 32nd extravaganza, or I don't have the name
Yeah.
in front of me, but yeah, it's like a big 32-year anniversary show.
So I would imagine that if I can pull that off February 15th, that would put me in the mix where I'd be heading over there. So I've already kind of penciled that weekend in my book, not to take anything else, just in case that door opens for me.
Well, I'm going to tell you that there's going to be a busload of people from Connecticut coming down. Probably
Oh
actually a
wow,
van load. We're renting a
yeah,
van. 12 of us are coming down for the weekend.
wow,
I'm traveling with a bunch of guys. Bloodsaw, the Atlantic champion, is coming down there, and I'm coming down there with him and a bunch of the other guys as part of the AIWF. So for that
yeah.
weekend. Yeah.
That's a good little haul for y'all, huh?
Yeah, yeah. We talked about it, and they asked me if I was interested in coming down, and I guess I can break this news now. Matt Classic has asked me if I wanted to do commentary on some of the matches for that weekend, and I have
Great.
accepted. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to coming down there. So
Yeah, well,
yeah,
let's hope out to where we'll run into each other for sure.
absolutely, absolutely. What do you think of the AIWF business model? It's something that I've over the last couple of years I've gotten really I guess enamored with. It kind of reminds me of the old school NWA territory system, and
Hmm.
with the exception of like, there's just internet, just what 150 brands in 49 countries or something similar to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's kind of amazing, because they have people from all over the world, and they take it very seriously. Some of these people from the international markets.
Yeah, I think it's the closest thing that I'm aware of to the NWA, brand style.
Right.
I think they're running hand in hand. So like I said, that's why I'm excited about it. Like I said, in July when Greg came in, that was my first kind of working against any AIWF champion having in that type of match. I've wrestled guys who wrestled for the AIWF but never been a champion or something like that. Um, so yeah, when we worked that out for me to come in and Greg come down here and give me that opportunity, which I still can't thank him enough for doing that. I guess it opened some eyes, and I've been around a long time, 30 years, and I might not be, known nationwide or too big of a thing. You have to follow independent wrestling as in a whole. Um,
Right.
but I've done a pretty good bit of things. Like I said, I've wrestled up in New Jersey several times. I've wrestled in Atlanta. I've wrestled in Florida. I've wrestled in Vegas. I've wrestled Tennessee, Texas.
Have you
All the
been
Gulf Coast.
you've been to New York, correct?
Yeah,
Have you been to New York?
wrestled.
Yeah, because I was
Yeah,
gonna say that's like, I mean, you're missing that in the list, and that's kind of a big
yeah.
deal. I think it's a big deal to come up to New York. 'Cause
Oh yeah, yeah,
I think my good buddy Richard Ruiz, he filmed the event. I guess it was the New England Big Apple something extravaganza or
yeah,
something like that, and
yeah,
he was
yeah.
him and his company film were the guys that did the
Okay.
video for it. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Because I know New York and Jersey's right next to each other, so I was
yeah,
kind of putting that in as the same
gotcha.
time. I've wrestled 3 or 4 times up there with Andrew because he had the NWA Big Apple.
Okay,
During that time, he was kind of the promoter guy putting that together. He had a couple partners that he was involved in, but
okay.
yeah, that was a good time going up that way and seeing the whole different type fan base and different part of the country and all that. So, but yeah, I'm looking forward to of course, my time in wrestling isn't going to be forever. I'm still in good shape. I stay in the gym and stay working and keeping myself in good shape. But I'm just turned 54. So as far as in wrestling years, 30 years of beating up on your body and all the sports and weightlifting and things that I've done over the years, it's an ongoing process to keep myself in working condition
Do you feel it every day when you wake up?
every day. Yeah, I mean every day. Um, I wrestled this weekend, and just things happen. Took a DDT and kind of jammed my neck. So like right now, that's about the best I'm going right
Yeah,
now. So get the heat, ice and heat, and that's what happens. The guys who do this, you wrestle on a weekend. If you don't have 1 or 2 matches on a weekend, and then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is the therapy, kind of getting yourself back, kind of moving right again, and then now you got to get back in the gym and get a few days in before you do it again. So it's
right.
a lot of people out there just don't understand what they want to call fake and real and all that and everything, but we people have talked about this for tons of years and all have their views on it, but you know what we put our bodies through, and some of these guys that wrestle a lot more than me, and uh, and it's a rough business. And like I said, I wake up every morning sore, and I know my loved ones tell me, Mike, when you're going to stop? And well, yeah, it's easy to just ask that and be sincere and think the best for me, but it's
Yeah.
I guess a combination of a passion and a sickness, you know.
Well, when you love what you do, it's hard to stop, you know, and especially it's like, it's not really, you're not harming anybody, maybe your own body a little bit,
Right.
but
Well, like I
yeah,
said, even I think if I stop at this point, if I said no more, I'm still going to be sore. The soreness is not going to go away,
right,
and I'm the good thing about knowledge and wisdom is I don't put myself in bad situations, going forward. I'm not going to, put myself in a match or accept a match on something that's not in my wheelhouse of things I'm supposed to do. But in the same token, I also have enough love and respect for the business that I'm not going to be that guy who says, "Oh, well, I can't do that." Well, if I can't do it, then I don't need to be doing it, you know. So,
Right.
so I'm just being logical, and I know still that I've got some miles left in the tank, and especially if I can, pull off something big in February and win the world title, then that means I'm just going to have to double up on the chiropractor and therapy and ice baths and
If you win,
and a leave if I win.
you're just going to get busier if you're the champion. That's it.
Well,
That's
that's what
all
I'm
that's going to
saying. I
happen.
mean,
Yeah, yeah.
I know that I know that the phone calls will come in a little more, and like I said, I've still got a lot of obligations that I've got already on the books right now. Starting off the year, so that would probably increase. So, you know, we do what
Yeah,
we do because we love it, and the fans is out there, and that's the fans is what really keeps us the drive going.
yeah. Have you ever had any serious injuries in the ring?
Nothing serious. Matter of fact, I guess I've torn my left ACL, I've torn my bicep, and I've torn my left rotator cuff, and none of the three were wrestling. It was all other sports. Now my only substantial injury that put me on the shelf for a little while, and it not for long, because I was wrestling Tyson Dean for the North American Championship, and that hometown North American Championship NWA. Um, I put myself out there and tried to do probably something that the young guys shouldn't be doing, a split leg moonsault off the top rope, and didn't rotate far enough and landed based on the back of my head, and gave myself a concussion, tore all the cartilage in my sternum, and in the middle of the
Jeez.
match, and then of course there wasn't no way I was stopping, and continued on and ended up winning the belt. So luckily I had a couple weeks to be able to recover till I had to defend it again, because I didn't have any obligations because I wasn't the champion at the time. So I was able to take about 3 weeks off and kind of get myself back in shape, and before I needed to get back in there and do it again. But that's the only thing, and that wasn't, time consuming where I was out for a couple months, you know.
Right.
But I've been fortunate. Let's knock on wood there. I mean, 30
That's
years
good.
30 years of doing this. I've been, good Lord's been looking out for me. So
Oh, you were a part of an event that I watched live on Fight. A couple of my friends, actually, multiple of my friends were involved with on this show, but you were part of the Night to Remember out of Chicago.
yeah,
You remember
yeah,
this?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You won
That
the
was
yeah, you won the North American title from there, the WAW belt. Yep.
correct. Yeah, that wasn't this July. That was last July.
Last July. Yep.
Um, yeah, last July. Yeah, I was, and that was the thing. Chaz Moriarty was putting that together and everything, and he's an old school guy, and thought the same thing. I kind of got the snub with the NWA whenever I wasn't able to retain the NWA North American Championship, and that title was up for grabs, and I was able to wrestle on that card. That was a pretty stacked card as well, and wrestled one of the top competitors from that area up that way, and I won so I'm technically currently the WAW North American champion still. I've had over the last year, I've had 6 title defenses, and with that belt. Matter of fact, I'm defending that next month, January 18th, at an event over here in Louisiana. So that's my next title defense with that.
Okay.
So
Secondhand Heroes and Home for Wayward Villains is a comic book shop and gaming store that also features Magic the Gathering and D&D. Located at 18184 Leesville Road in Evington, Virginia, Secondhand Heroes is your one-stop shop for you to get your nerd on. Open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. They don't close until the dice stop rolling. They buy, sell, trade, barter, and haggle, specializing in collectible toys, both vintage and modern, comics, Magic the Gathering, video games, console, and arcade cabinets to play, all set to free play. Host your game night with us. Monday night D&D video game competitions, and so much more. Something for the collector and gamer in us all. Call 434-317-0121 or shoot us an email with any questions to secondhandheroesva@gmail.com. Note, secondhandheroesva@gmail.com. That's 2ND, handheroesva@gmail.com. Come game with us.
Yeah. My buddies, the House of Pain. Are you familiar with
Yeah,
them?
yeah.
Yeah,
I think they won the tag belts that night.
Yep, they won the North American tag belts. They've been still holding them. There's a picture of me out there with them when they got back to Connecticut, holding those belts up.
Okay,
Uh,
okay.
They are still defending those belts all over the country. So
That's
yep.
great. That's great. Yeah, I met them. I met them for the first time, and great guys. And yeah, I'm glad they still got hold of them.
Yeah, good bunch of good guys. All right, so let me ask you. You're part of this Pro Wrestling 225, which I've recently discovered this
Oh
company,
yeah,
and it seems
yeah,
they seem to be doing something very good. I mean, they got a YouTube series going on. And it seems like they're packing in decent sized crowds.
yeah. They're legit. I mean, they've got YouTube. They've actually got a local TV segment that they're
Mm-hmm.
doing. They're drawing really nice houses. I technically call it my sister company. The promoter who's involved in putting it on, and Mike Woodrow, from down here in Louisiana. I actually helped train him. I think it's been about 15 years,
Okay.
and they kind of started as part of Gulf Coast Wrestling at the time. And then as they got bigger and wanted to rebrand, they started Pro Wrestling 225. They're based out of basically the Plaquemine area, which is not far from Baton Rouge. Do events around surrounding areas around there. But they've got, yeah, if you're out there, look up Pro Wrestling 225. They've got YouTube, plenty of TV, YouTube, solid wrestlers. They bring in guys from basically all over, and have a wide base of guys who've done a lot with, AEW stuff, Impact, Ring of Honor, solid base of up and coming guys. I mean, some of these guys that come through there is definitely going to be somewhere at some point in time.
Yeah, no, I was shocked when I saw it because I have a list of ongoing YouTube series that I add to the list, break it down by day, what airs at what day, what time it airs, just so I could, people looking for wrestling. I listed it on the website, and I found this today or the other day, and I was just surprised that I hadn't heard of it. The crowds are packed. There's so many people in the damn crowd. And it
Yeah.
seems like it's just a really, really good product. So I was like, I want to explore it a lot more,
Yeah, yeah. Nobody will be upset about looking at what they got going on. I mean, they bring in talent from all over the South. I mean, from Texas all the way to Florida, and like I said, great production value. Got ringside commentators, TV. But they're growing and by leaps and bounds. They're running probably about. Probably 15 shows a year, 15, 16 shows a
Okay.
year.
It's
Maybe
actually a
I
lot.
think
Yeah.
I think that's what they've had up to date, but I think their calendar right now, because I've got some bookings with them, is going to be on pace to beat that, because they're picking up new towns. But they're somebody to watch for right there.
Yeah, I urge everybody that's listening to get out there and watch that. Couple more questions before we get out of here. I know we talked a little bit about Tim Storm, and he's to me he's just a gem of a professional wrestler, and that he's still involved in the business. He's
Yeah,
not he's still wrestling, but not what he was once.
sure.
And he's very good in the broadcast chair, I think, as well.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
don't, I guess the way everything happened with NWA, I don't keep up with them as much as, normally I would have.
Right.
But yeah, what I've seen of his broadcast abilities, and I mean, he's still obviously wrestling. I mean, I've had the luxury of wrestling him a couple times,
Yeah.
with him and against him. Um, so, matter of fact, I have a proud to say I have a win against two former NWA heavyweight champions. I've beaten Jack Stain and Tim Storm, so that's I guess something good to have on my win list.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, man, I mean, such a good dude. Him and James Beard, you got to almost mention them in the same breath, man. Those guys are just good as gold.
Yeah, I actually did have James Beard on the show last year, probably December. It was right before the Iron Claw came out, like probably
Yeah.
like a few weeks, and so we really heavily went into that, and obviously some of his career questions and stuff like that. But I got to tell you, he was very kind and just went into like extreme detail on every question, like every answer he gave. It was a really nice guy.
Yeah, Iron
Uh,
Claw was filmed down here in
yeah,
Baton Rouge, not too far from us.
yeah, yeah. Really?
Yeah, Baton
That's
Rouge. That's
yeah.
where it was filmed. Out. As a matter of fact, they rented my ring to do training in. So I had I can't think of the
So,
guy's name the star, but so
Zac Efron was in it.
yeah,
Zac
yeah,
Efron. Yeah,
exactly.
that's it.
It was
Yeah,
working out in my ring, so I got a little bit of star power been in there.
there you go. Well, I really didn't have this question in the works, but did you end up watching that movie?
Wait a minute, let me think about this. Yeah, I did.
Yeah,
I forgot because I didn't watch it right away. I kind
right.
of waited, and I ended up watching it. And I was, a lot of people was kind of disappointed,
Hmm.
on some factors with the movie, with the, leaving out, I believe was it Mike,
It was
or
Chris.
Chris,
Yeah,
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 Chris Von Erich. And I understand it's a movie. You got to have time to better fit everything in. My personal opinion, I think if you're talking about the family's history, my personal opinion is I think he probably should have been included, even if it wasn't a big part, some sort of mention or some kind of way they could have fit something in there. And I think
right,
their reasoning was that it was such a dramatic, sad thing what happened. They didn't want to add more sadness to it. But I mean, hey, if you're telling a something fairly true, a documentary almost like movie, you know.
yeah.
Uh, but hey, that's why they make the big bucks and the directors and all those guys make those decisions.
Yeah, I took my wife to go see that, and now she does not watch wrestling, doesn't even know who they are, nothing like that. So she really enjoyed the movie, whereas, I enjoyed the movie enough, but there was also a lot of factual faults to it. You know what I mean? Like if I
Yeah,
went in not knowing anything about the Von Erichs, not watching them every day for, 10 or so years on TV, then, I probably would have enjoyed it like it was brand new, but I knew like a lot of the history. So it's like I knew
right.
certain things that were just not factual, things that were not in the same timeline, or this didn't happen this way. And so, but overall, I have to say that I did enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I think it was good for people to better see who's maybe watched it as not a a full wrestling fan and got to kind of shed a little light on the reality of the business, and what some of these guys have been through and stuff. Of course, yeah, everything wasn't probably 100%, you know,
Yeah.
in which us involved in the wrestling business, you can look at it and critique it, and stuff like
Right.
that. When others that don't know what we know, just went along with it.
Right. Right. Before we get out of here, is there anything else that you have coming up that you want to throw out there?
Um, well, like I said, we we had a great year with my home base federation, Gulf State Wrestling. We had 9 shows this year. Um, our average fan base is we average probably around 350 to 400 fans, which is really good for the independent
Yeah.
wrestling. And our super show that we do every July, we drew 900. So that's something to be, I'm very happy about. And proud of. We're starting off next year. I've got January 18th. If people out there look up Gulf State Wrestling, they can look us up. We got some stuff on YouTube, not as much as 225, but our Facebook channel. And then February 15th, I have that big opportunity. And we got some other things coming behind that. But those first two starting off the year, and hopefully that leads into me going to North Carolina for the big AIWF show in March. And then, like I said, I have plans to go to WrestleMania this year in Vegas as well. So if I do have that belt, maybe that'll open up some doors that way to get some more exposure over there. I've wrestled several times over there for CHC, Cauliflower Alley, and which is a great group of guys. If you're looking for anything, and people don't know what Cauliflower Alley Club is, for the history of our business, I know we didn't talk much about that, and I didn't think about it till right now, but that's a big part of professional wrestling where everything's come from.
Absolutely, yeah.
And but yeah, that's about it. I mean, like I said, look me up on Facebook, Mustang Mike. Also on Instagram, Mustang Mike Boom is my moniker on there. But I appreciate the time, and for the people who end up watching this that's not familiar, look it up. Boom is my logo there. Mustang Mike, Mr. Boom is my.
You got a YouTube channel for yourself, your single stuff?
Yeah, I do have. You can look up Mustang. The easiest way is pull it up, Mustang Mike Wrestler, and a lot of my matches will come up on there. And then it also links me in to some of the other stuff that I might have wrestled with Pro Wrestling 225. They'll tag me as Mustang Mike, so it kind of tags in. So if you go on YouTube and put in Mustang Mike Wrestler, because there's a Mustang Mike who deals with cars, one of us two is going to come up. So if you put Mustang Mike Wrestler, you can see a lot of my stuff.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you for coming by today. I'm glad we got to do this today. I'm definitely going to have you back, especially if that February 15th date, that result works out. We're going to have to plan on that now.
Yeah. And like I said, if that works out, I'll see you in March, and then, I'll be down there, and we'll run into each other. But let's hope that both things work out.
Absolutely. Thank you again.
All right. We'll see y'all later.